My friends, I'd like to extend an invitation. A big fat invitation. Welcome to Real Truth. I'd like to extend an invitation to all the foreign-born illegal immigrant murderers, rapists, car thieves, swindlers, child molesters. I'd like to invite you all to move to Denver, Colorado. Come on in. Why the invitation? Well, I'm looking at this news item from CBS 4. Dozens of people filled the room where the Denver City Council met on Wednesday to consider taking a stance on protecting immigrants from federal agents. The Safety Committee passed the ordinance by a vote of 6-1. This comes on the same day as President Donald Trump endorsed the RAISE Act, an immigrant bill aimed at reducing legal immigration overall and gives priority to English-speaking applicants, unquote. So Denver's legislators at city councils, they want to take more steps to protect illegals who come to Denver, including illegal murderers, rapists. They want to be a sanctuary city for criminals. And so criminals, if you're within the sound of my voice, head to Denver, where life is easy, where the government's on your side, where the victims are ripe, luscious, and waiting for your brand of violence. I'm sorry, what's that? I can't, what? You say you live in Denver and nearby Denver and its environs, and you're saying what? You don't want criminals flocking to Denver and its environs? Oh. Then why did you vote these idiots onto the Denver City Council? You mean the politicians aren't doing what you want them to do? I understand why you're upset. Here's an idea. How about getting new politicians who will do what you want? How about getting politicians on the city council who don't want Denver and the nearby area to be home to every kind of miscreant and criminal that there is? Why don't you get politicians who don't want to give sanctuary to evil animals? I'm sorry, what's that? Are you saying that would take work? In other words, you'd have to turn off the TV. You'd have to put away the video games. You'd have to stop going to the ball games and watching your sitcoms. You'd have to actually get busy and get active and do something to replace these city council members who don't mind if you or your children are mugged, raped, or killed. Well, you know what? I don't want to tell anybody to get up off the couch. Just sit there. Everything will be fine. It's Thursday. Real Truth. We'll be back.
Article 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the places to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
The associates at your 24-hour Walmart Supercenter in Lafayette, Vermont. No one anywhere is more noble, righteous, selfless, or courageous than our United States Armed Forces. These brave men and women and their families foot the bill for our freedom every day. Send a military care package today to let them know that they are in our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts. This message is from the associates at your 24-hour Walmart Supercenter on Highway 287 in Lafayette. They're on the air because they care.
If catastrophe struck, would your family be prepared? Are you confident you wouldn't react in a panic? Is there one place to get all of your emergency supplies? Ferris Survival encourages you to have confidence through preparation, not panic through crisis. Ferris Survival, located at 3366 South Broadway, is a professional, reputable, full-service business providing quality, realistic preparedness supplies at an affordable price. Go online, stop by, or call 303-781-0343. Ferris Survival.
All right, folks, welcome back to Real Truth. I'm Howard Riell. Let me start with an amazing coincidence and, unfortunately, a sad one. The 9th anniversary of this show, Real Truth, is coming up on August 24th. Yesterday, it occurred to me to reach out to Jim Marrs. You know, Jim has been on this show many times. He's a spectacular guest on this show. If you have an archive of my shows, you can hear him. I hadn't talked to Jim in years. But it occurred to me, if I've got an anniversary show, maybe it would be good to bring Jim back. Then a thought occurred to me, well, it's been years and Jim is not a young man. God forbid, maybe he's died in the interim. I have to check. Sent him an email. Today I was going through the news, and Jim Marrs died today. First time I'd reached out to him in a long time to be on my show, just the day after I thought of him. He died this morning. I want you to know that I liked Jim Marrs, a great respect for him, fellow journalist, author. He played an important role in my education about conspiratorial things back almost 9 years ago when I started doing this show. I was asked to do a show about conspiracy. I got in touch with Jim Marrs and others, and little by little they built an edifice of my knowledge base about exactly what's what and who's who in the world. And Jim was a big part of that. He was the author of a lot of best-selling books. His newest was called The Illuminati, the Secret Society that Hijacked the World. Other books of his, Alien Agenda, Investigating the Extraterrestrial Presence Among Us, The Rise of the Fourth Reich, the Secret Societies that Threaten to Take Over America, Our Occulted History, Population Control, How Corporate Owners Are Killing Us, Alien Agenda, Investigating the Extraterrestrial Presence Among Us. His biggest one was Crossfire, the plot that killed Kennedy. That was the basis of the movie JFK by Oliver Stone. He also wrote the book that first interested me in conspiracy, Ruled by Secrecy, the hidden history that connects the Trilateral Commission, the Freemasons, and the Great Pyramids. Coincidence comes from God, and that's why I thought of Jim only hours before he passed away. I want to say that I will miss him. I want to thank him, and I want to hope that he rests in peace. He was a good man, fighting the good fight. Not enough people like that. Item from the Washington Times. Matt Drudge of Drudge Report fame didn't take kindly to Senator John McCain's recent thumbs-down vote on Obamacare repeal. In a tweet that quickly amassed 5,500 or so likes and near 2,800 retweets, Drudge simply wrote, quote, "Corruption has so many faces," unquote. The message was atop a photo of a McCain campaign photo that included the senator's face and this text: John McCain leading the fight to stop Obamacare. My friends, John McCain is a fool, but he's worse than that. He's a fake, he's a liar, he's a hypocrite, he's a traitor to America, and he is perhaps the smelliest part of the swamp that Donald Trump is now working to drain. Mr. McCain, you are no longer needed. Item from Bloomberg. Donald Trump blamed Congress for worsening relations with Russia, which accused the U.S. president of caving into his legislators by signing a law that could keep sanctions in place for years, unquote. Let me understand this. Donald Trump just signed a law that keeps sanctions on Russia in place for years. But how can that be, since Donald Trump is Vladimir Putin's lapdog, just like the left has been saying for a year? Right? Item from DetroitNews.com. Half of the 8 mayoral hopefuls on Detroit's primary ballot next week have been convicted of felony crimes involving drugs, assault, or weapons, a Detroit News analysis shows. 3 were charged with gun crimes and 2 for assault with intent to commit murder. Some of the offenses date back decades, the earliest to 1977, the most recent to 2008, unquote. My friends, there's no nice way to say it. Much of Detroit is a toilet. It has been in the toilet for decades. Important to note, it has been ruled by Democrats for even more decades. Detroit has been brought low, and its people have been brought low by Democrat idiots who don't know the first thing about running a city, don't know what policies will and won't work, always feel sorry for criminals, always are divisive along racial and economic lines. Democrats just don't get things done. Exhibit A, Detroit. Item from the New York Daily News. Hip-hop pioneer Kid Creole has been charged with murder after fatally stabbing a homeless ex-con he thought was hitting on him on a Midtown street Tuesday night. Creole, whose real name is Nathaniel Glover, was arrested Wednesday and accused of killing John Jolly. Glover, 57, was one of the members of Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, a hip-hop group formed in the South Bronx in the 1970s. My friends, if you're not from New York, I'll fill you in. The South Bronx is one of the most disgusting toilets on the planet. Back in the 70s, it was even worse. It is no surprise that someone deep in the world of hip-hop should be arrested for a violent crime. Hip-hop is the soundtrack for violence and ignorance in this country. It's a soundtrack for people who just want to go out and do violence. And after all, why not? Because everybody else listening to hip-hop is okay with that. Hip-hop has a very, very deleterious effect, especially on young people. Item from Breitbart. President Donald Trump's National Security Advisor, H.R. McMaster, allowed former President Obama's National Security Advisor, Susan Rice, to maintain her security clearance to access classified information, despite reservations Trump had about her motives. McMaster sent an official letter to Rice informing her she would maintain unfettered access to classified information, according to a report from Circa News' Sarah Carter. The president was not aware of his actions, unquote. McMaster is part of the swamp. McMaster is also, apparently, a traitor to the Trump administration, which pays him, and to the American people, which depends on him to keep us safe. Time for McMaster not only to get out of the Trump administration, but to be investigated. Maybe he'd be better in a jail cell. We'll be back.
Now this is the testimony of John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and did not deny, but confessed, "I am not the Messiah." And they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" And he answered, "No." The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 19 through 21. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
Piccolo's restaurant in Denver reminds us that over 750,000 children were reported missing last year. Over 58,000 of these were abducted by non-family members. Keep an eye out for youngsters at play, and if you see anything suspicious, contact the authorities immediately. This message from Piccolo's restaurant in Denver. It's not only the best Italian and Mexican cuisine, it's the people who care. Give them a call at 303-757-5166. 303-757-5166. Piccolo. Vincent, the uniform people really. Police, firefighters, we thank them for doing a great job to keep Carter. Live, shop, and raise a family. We realize that job is getting sometimes. This message is from Simpson Uniform People 3. Call 352-2233. They're on the air because they care. America. Simpson, the uniform people in Cruise.
Okay, we're back. Howard Riell, Real Truth. My friends, I started with the passing of Jim Marrs Here is a video from Alex Jones at InfoWars, who worked with Jim Marrs in more of a capacity than I did. For me, he was an occasional guest, but he worked closely with Jim Marrs, knew him, was friends with him, both from Texas. So let's listen to Alex Jones talk about the late Jim Marrs. Here we go. My friends, that's Jim Mars. Once again, he died today. Jim, rest in peace. Item from Breitbart. Marie Claire, the magazine that advises go-ahead young women on key issues like how to enjoy anal sex when they have irritable bowel syndrome, has discovered the main problem with the hit movie Dunkirk. It's all about men. Quote, I guess congratulations are in order for Nolan, that's the director, Christopher Nolan, managing to unite highbrow male critics and very annoying people on Twitter under a common bromance. But to me, Dunkirk felt like an excuse for men to celebrate maleness, which apparently they don't get to do enough, unquote. Yes, can confirm. Saw the movie at the weekend. The film really does celebrate maleness. It celebrates the kind of maleness which, contrary to Marie Claire's movie critic, Mahara Bonner, we hear all too little of these days in this feminized, unpatriotic, self-hating age, unquote. My friends, it's absolutely true. I don't think that Mahara Bonner is very much of a journalist or a film critic. Item from Patch.com, Dateline LA. When it comes to global warming, Fido and Fluffy are part of the problem. A new study by UCLA indicates most cat or dog lovers would say they can't imagine living in a world without pets, But as the threat of global warming increases, environmentally conscious pet lovers may need to make some tough choices, according to the study. Pet ownership in the United States creates about 64 million tons of carbon dioxide a year, UCLA researchers found. That's the equivalent of driving 13.6 million cars for a year. The problem lies with the meat-filled diets of kitties and pooches, according to the study by UCLA geography professor Gregory Oken. Dogs and cats are responsible for 25 to 30% of the impacts of meat production in the United States, said Orkin. Compared to a plant-based diet, meat production, quote, requires more energy, land, and water and has greater environmental consequences in terms of erosion, pesticides, and waste, the study found, unquote. My friends, let me pose a question to you. If pets, dogs and cats, are doing this much damage to the environment, and so people want to get rid of them, just think how much damage liberals are doing to our environment and our society. I've got my ear to the ground. I don't yet hear anyone besides me making a call to get rid of liberals. But the people who worship at the altar of global warming, they will find every excuse in the world to try and legitimize the nonsense that they're espousing. Now it's dogs and cats. Who knows? Maybe next it'll be you and me. We'll take a break and we'll be back with more Real Truth, my friends. Stick around.
R&R Supply Incorporated in Fort Collins reminds listeners, every day our troops demonstrate their dedication to our nation. Now is the time for us to return the favor. Hire our returning veterans as well as those who have served in the past. After investing their lives in our nation, they deserve our investment in them. This message is from R&R Supply Incorporated in Fort Collins, and they're on the air, reminding all of us that our freedom has never been free.
And of his fullness we have all received, and grace for grace. For the law was given through Moses, but grace and truth came through Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Christ. No one has seen God at any time. The only begotten Son, who is in the bosom of the Father, he has declared him. The Gospel of John, chapter 1, verse 16.
We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to ordain and establish this Constitution.
Elizabeth Locker Plan and Elizabeth reminds our listeners that the drug problem is well documented. We know our kids will be approached at early age. We want to applaud the youngsters in our community who have had the strength to say no to drugs. They provide examples to their peers and families to be the best they can be. That's from Elizabeth Locker Plant, located at 366 Grand Street in Elizabeth, serving our area since 1943 and specializing in naturalized aged beef and pork and complete custom process. Call 303-688-2240. That's 303-688-2240. If catastrophe struck, would your family be prepared? Are you confident you wouldn't react in a panic? Is there one place to get all of your emergency supplies? Ferris Survival encourages you to have confidence through preparation, not panic through crisis. Ferris Survival, located at 3366 South Broadway, is a professional, reputable, full-service business providing quality, realistic preparedness supplies at an affordable price. Go online, stop by, or call 303-781-0343. Ferris Survival.
The associates at your 24-hour Walmart Supercenter Lafayette remind you, no one anywhere is more noble, righteous, selfless, or courageous than our United States Armed Forces. These brave men and women and their families foot the bill for our freedom every day. Send a military care package today to let them know that they are in our hearts and our prayers and our thoughts. This message is from the associates at your 24-hour Walmart Supercenter on Highway 287 in Lafayette. They're on the air because they care.
My friends, fake news has a face. That's what I'm going to talk about right now. Welcome back to Real Truth. I am still Howard Riell. CNN is the very epicenter of fake news, and the face of CNN, at least in the White House briefing room, is some jerk named Jim Acosta who very clearly wants his own show on CNN, which is why every time the camera is turned towards him, he begins to grandstand. He whines, bellyaches, yells, interrupts, does everything a real journalist with self-respect would never do. So when Stephen Miller was at the podium yesterday talking to the press, he said he'd take one more question, and you know what? The Brooklynite in me just knew he was going to pick Jim Acosta, and son of a gun if he didn't. I don't know why CNN is still allowed in the briefing room. I would not allow them in the briefing room, but they are allowed. Stephen Miller, maybe he took it as some kind of a challenge. I have no idea. He picked on Jim Acosta. It turned out into exactly the kind of mess you would think it would be. Here's Tucker Carlson, Mark Stein talking about it last night on Fox. Okay. Video really is coming, my friends. Have no doubt of that. When I tell you video's going to play, it's going to play. Huh? There we go. Okay, we're going to have to wait for the video. Anyway, I love what Tucker Carlson says about this guy Acosta. He calls him the drunk guy at the party with bad breath who won't stop talking. And yeah, that's a pretty good description of Jim Acosta, Mr. Fake News at CNN. And it's unfortunate that journalism has fallen to this level, but it has. And it's up to us to be aware of it. All right, I think we got the video lining up right now. Here we go.
Immigrants to come here and do the jobs that Americans won't do is because apparently one of the jobs that Americans won't do is drag Jim Acosta out of there, kick him to the sidewalk and say, if you want to do the Jim Acosta show, there's a rusting boxcar around the back of the freight yards with 3 semi-comatose hobos who are interested in it, but nobody else here is. And that would have been the healthy reaction to that. As for the range of cliches he brought up. The French gave the Americans a pretty good Statue of Liberty, and then the Americans hammered a lousy poem by Emma Lazarus onto it and turned a pretty great Statue of Liberty into a Statue of Immigration. I regret that. But the fact is that Stephen Miller was quite right at this point about, do you only want Englishmen and Australians? There are 60 countries in the world, including mine, that have English as an official language. For example, just a few years ago, after the genocide, Rwanda, a Belgian colony, joined the British Commonwealth. And as part of it, even though it's never been a British colony, and as part of that, they stopped teaching in schools and began teaching English. So you can have Rwandans who are fluent in English. You can have Papua New Guineans who are fluent in English. You can have Tuvaluans who are fluent in English, and Singaporeans who are fluent in English. And the idea that this is just some pasty white man's language is so deranged. Almost a third of the members of the United Nations are proficient in English, more or less.
Jim Acosta thinks English is a race.
Yes.
Which is troubling.
Yes, he does. Oh, by the way, Tucker, there's plenty of people in the United Kingdom who speak Welsh and Gaelic. I was driving through the Highlands, Scottish Highlands, with my daughter, and we heard the BBC's Gaelic rap station in which these delinquent Scotsmen are rapping in Gaelic. So I protest on behalf of the non-English speakers of the British Isles of this outrageous racism from this Acosta buffoon.
I don't know if I can improve on that. I do think, though, on some level, liberals, Jim Acosta, the network he works for, all of Washington, are offended by the idea that America would craft an immigration policy that helps America. Why is that so offensive to them?
Yes, basically until half a century ago, it was thought perfectly normal for countries to decide the immigrants that were of most use to them, which tended to be the immigrants who could assimilate the easiest. And suddenly it's become a point where there's 7 billion people on the planet, and you're not allowed to make value judgments about any of them. And in the case of the United States, we have wound up with the most extreme immigration policy of all, where we actually advantage unskilled illegal immigrants who don't even have the couple of $100 paperwork. I mean, don't forget, what Jim Acosta is complaining about is that Trump wants to move to a Canadian-style immigration policy. These are the same people who are wetting their knickers over Justin Trudeau on the cover of Rolling Stone saying, oh, why can't we have a dreamboat president like the Canadian Prime Minister? And Trump saying, well, I'll meet you halfway. Let's start with Canadian immigration policy. And suddenly Justin Trudeau is this white supremacist, and Trump is trashing America's immigration policy to turn himself into another maple-infused Ku Klux Klan moose hunting ground like Canada. This is ridiculous.
The best thing about this debate, though, is you really do get to learn how much the ruling class hates itself and hates this country.
Yes, the ruling class, the elites, the liberals hate this country. Absolutely correct. So, my friends, why do you vote for them? Item from Breitbart. The propaganda press is already trying to have a field day with the Trump telephone transcripts that were just released, showcasing his conversations with the President of Mexico and the Prime Minister of Australia. They think the calls make him look bad. That's because their frame of reference is that of, quote, normal politicians. Instead, the new President of the United States shows an indefatigable commitment to make America great again, which agenda includes toughness on immigration, crime, trade, and the border wall. His unwillingness to accept bad deals for the American people will both reassure and further endear him to those that put him in the White House in the first place. Unquote. My friends, the people who hate America and hate Americans, those are the ones who hate Trump. Item from Breitbart. German car giant Mercedes-Benz dropped the importation of foreign workers to build their Vance, Alabama-based auto plant following a report on how Americans are often left behind by multinational corporations. Unquote. In other words, Germans will no longer be coming here to take the jobs that Americans could have. Thank you, President Trump. Item from Breitbart. A student leader at the University of Central Florida has resigned from his post over an October Facebook post in which he reportedly wrote that Trump supporters were not welcome on campus. The newly appointed student diversity chair, Grayson Lanza, has resigned over a social media post he made. Stop. My friends, this is the utter insanity, stupidity, and hypocrisy of liberals. This guy is the student diversity chair. Diversity! So he's all for diversity as long as it agrees with him. If it doesn't, then you're not welcome on campus. Folks, how long till America wakes up to the scam called liberalism? How long do we insist on an end to the hypocrisy and the lies and the hate? Good Lord. All right, we'll take a break. 3/4 of the way through, my friends. We're almost there. Stay tuned. More Real Truth to come.
Your local DuPont Pioneer team doesn't take with you from the word go lightly, especially when it comes to forages. Just ask your fellow producers, folks like Amos Smith.
We have an awesome support team from Pioneer. I think that they're probably one of the reasons why we are successful.
And Bruce Cullum.
They'll come out just anytime you want to call them and help us. You don't get that from all your other seed dealers, but these guys are here all season long.
As well as Ken Phelps.
Just know that, the research that Pioneer's done, it really, it shows, and that the cows really do well with it, so we continue to use it.
Or Billy Rucker.
All in all, seem like Pioneer is always in the top. I bleed green, and I bleed Pioneer.
Want a team that's with you from the word go? That's DuPont Pioneer. Ask them about leveraging the Silage Zone resource to produce the highest quality forages for your operation. Pioneer, with you from the word go.
Howdy, folks. Have you ever thought about having your own backyard chickens?
Now you have a source for certified organic, no GMO, no soy chicken feed. HappyHens.biz can even deliver, or you can pick up. Call me, Tim, at 303-829-5948, or go to happyhens.biz for pricing and ingredients. At happyhens.biz, we love happyhens.biz, or call us at 303-829-5948.
That's a uniform people really. Firefighters need work in our community. We thank them for doing a great job keeping our area a place to live, shop, and raise a family. We realize their job is dangerous. This message is from this uniform people at Greeley. Call 352-2233. They're on the air because they care. America. Sent to the uniform people in Greeley.
All right, 15 minutes to go, my friends. Don't unbuckle yet. Item from Breitbart, a new study estimates that 38% of Americans use prescription opioids in a given year. It does not say whether the 62% not getting pills from pharmacists, licensed and unlicensed, get their drugs from a neighbor's grow room or a biker's shed-cum laboratory. Unquote. What's known is that opioid use has run wild in this country, my friends. Even if you're on prescriptions, which are completely legal, you should cut back if you can. Item from Westmonster. EU airports have been accused of punishing legitimate British holidaymakers for trying to enter Schengen countries. Meanwhile, thousands of jihadis enjoy free movement across the continent. Brits faced lines of up to 4 hours, including at Amsterdam's Schiphol and Paris's Orly airports, as the EU upped its security checks. But where are the strict checks on the Italian or Greek coasts where millions of migrants have arrived in the past few years? Unquote. My friends, there are no checks. There are no security checks. Because Europe is largely a liberal continent, and the liberals in Europe know that nothing bad will come of the migrants arriving on their shores because they don't want anything bad. That's liberal intellectual rigor. Item from NPR. Faced with a flood of asylum seekers traveling from the U.S. to Quebec, Canada, local authorities have repurposed Montreal's Olympic Stadium and turned it into a refugee welcome center. A spokesperson for PREDA, the local government agency that helps refugees, tells the CBC more than 1,000 asylum seekers crossed the border into Quebec last month. In comparison, PREDA helped 180 people in July 2016. The CBC writes, unquote, my friends, Canada has its welcome mat open to refugees from the third world. Canada is on the way into the toilet. Item from InfoWars. Within days after the Islamic State conquered the city of Sirte in Libya 2 years ago, enormous billboards appeared in the Islamist stronghold warning women that they must wear baggy robes that cover their entire bodies and no perfume. These Sharia stipulations for hijab included wearing dense materials in a robe that does not resemble the attire of unbelievers. 2 years later, Europe's three most important cities, London, Paris, and Berlin, are adopting the same Sharia trend. Paris has said au revoir to sexist quote-unquote ads on public billboards. The Paris City Council announced its ban after the socialist mayor Anne Hidalgo said the move meant that Paris was leading the way in the fight against sexism. London Mayor Sadiq Khan also banned advertisements that promote, quote, unrealistic expectations of women's body image and health, unquote. Now, Berlin is planning to ban images in which women are portrayed as, quote, beautiful but weak, hysterical, dumb, crazy, naive, or ruled by their emotions, unquote. Der Spiegel's Harold Martenstein said that the policy, quote, could have been adopted from the Taliban manifesto, unquote. My friends, Taliban ideology, Islam, Sharia law seep into the countries in which it arrives. It's killing Europe, killing Canada. You know what? It's starting to kill us too. Item from the Economic Collapse blog. You can either follow the herd or you can decide to find your own path. One of the things that greatly frustrates me is that so many Americans allow other people to do their thinking for them. We've become a nation of sheeple, and the vast majority of the shepherds we're relying on for guidance are frauds and imposters. The blind are leading the blind, and we're slowly but surely committing national suicide. If a lot more of us don't start to learn to think for ourselves, I fear that the vast majority of the population will never wake up until it's far too late. Let me ask you a very simple question. What's on your mind today? If you are not preoccupied with work or with family matters, you're probably thinking about something you have been fed through the mainstream media. Just think about this for a few moments. When you're sitting around the dinner table or you're chatting with someone at work, what do you tend to talk about? If you're like most people, many of your conversations will be about something that you saw on the news, a new movie that you just watched, or a sporting event that's just happened, unquote. My friends, go to the economiccollapseblog.com, read this piece, because Americans get led around by the nose by the major media, which hates them. Item from the Rutherford Institute. Denouncing the fact that Americans cannot even drive their cars without being enmeshed in the government's web of surveillance, the Rutherford Institute has asked the Virginia Supreme Court to prohibit Virginia police from using license plate readers as surveillance tools to track drivers' movements. Mounted next to traffic lights or on police cars, automated license plate readers, ALPRs, which photograph up to 3,600 license tag numbers per minute, take a picture of every passing license tag number and store the tag number and the date, time, and location of the picture in a searchable database. The data is then shared with law enforcement, fusion centers, and private companies and used to track the movements of persons in their cars. There are reportedly tens of thousands of these license plate readers now in operation throughout the country. It's estimated over 99% of the people being unnecessarily surveilled are entirely innocent. In challenging the use of license plate readers by Fairfax police, Rutherford Institute attorneys argued that Fairfax County's practice of collecting and storing license plate reader data violates a Virginia law prohibiting the government from amassing personal information about individuals, including their driving habits and location. The amicus brief in Neal versus Fairfax County Police Department is available at www.rutherford.org. We're on the losing end of a technological revolution that's already taken hostage our computers, our phones, our finances, our entertainment, our shopping, our appliances, and now it's focused its sights on our cars, said constitutional attorney John W. Whitehead, president of the Rutherford Institute, past guest here on the show, by the way, and author of Battlefield America, The War on the American People. By subjecting Americans to surveillance without their knowledge or compliance and then storing the data for later use, the government has erected the ultimate suspect society. In such an environment, there's no such thing as innocent until proven guilty. Since 2010, the Fairfax County Police Department has used automated license plate readers to record the time, place, and driving direction of thousands of drivers who use Fairfax County roads daily. My friends, we'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk more about this because it's just that important. More Real Truth ahead. Stick around.
Beloved, do not believe every spirit, but test the spirits, whether they are of God, because many false prophets have gone into the world. By this you will know the Spirit of God. Every spirit that confesses that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is of God, and every spirit that does not confess that Yeshua, Jesus, has come in the flesh is not of God. And this is the spirit of Antichrist, which you have already heard was coming and is now already in the world. 1 John 4:1.
No state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque or reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts, pass any bill of attainder, ex post facto law, or law impairing the obligation of contracts, or grant any title of nobility. Article 1, Section 10.
Piccolo's restaurant in Denver reminds us that over 750,000 children were reported missing last year. Over 58,000 of these were abducted by non-family members. Keep an eye out for youngsters at play, and if you see anything suspicious, contact the authorities immediately. This message from Piccolo's restaurant in Denver. It's not only the best Italian and Mexican cuisine, it's the people who care. Give them a call at 303-757-5166. 303-757-5166. Piccolo. Elizabeth Lockerplan in Elizabeth reminds our listeners that the drug problem is well documented. We know our kids will be approached at early ages. We want to applaud the youngsters in our community who have had the strength to say no to drugs. They provide examples to their peers and families to be the best they can be. That's from Elizabeth Locker Plant, located at 366 Grant Street in Elizabeth, serving our area since 1943 and specializing in naturalized aged beef and pork and complete custom processing. Call 303-688-2240. That's 303-688-2240.
My friends, welcome back to Real Truth. Let's continue with this. For the last 4 minutes, let's continue with this piece on from John Whitehead of the Rutherford Institute about surveillance, because it's so pervasive, it's so out of hand. So let's spend the last few minutes talking about it. Whitehead continues. License plate readers capture up to 3,600 images of license tag numbers per minute and convert the images to a computer format that can be searched by tag number. This information, stored in the police database for a year, allows the police to determine the driving habits of persons as well as where they've been. In 2014, Fairfax County resident Harrison Neal filed a complaint against FCPD, asserting its collection and storage of license plate data violates Virginia's Government Data Collection and Dissemination Practices Act. That's a law enacted because of the fear that advanced technologies would be used by the government to collect and analyze massive amounts of personal information about citizens, thereby invading their privacy and liberty. The lawsuit cited the 2013 opinion by Virginia Attorney General Ken Cuccinelli that ALPR data is personal information that the Data Act forbids the government from collecting and storing except in connection with an active criminal investigation. Despite this opinion, FCPD continued its practice of collecting and storing ALPR data in order to track the movements of vehicles and drivers. In November 2016, a Fairfax County Circuit Court ruled that license plate reader data was not personal information under the Data Act because license tag numbers identify a car and not a person. And weighing in on the case before the Virginia Supreme Court, Rutherford Institute attorneys refuted the lower court ruling and argued that the history of the Data Act affirms its prohibition on the collection and maintenance of ALPR data by the government. The Rutherford Institute, a nonprofit civil liberties organization, provides legal assistance at no charge to individuals whose constitutional rights have been threatened or violated, and educates the public on a wide spectrum of issues affecting their freedom, unquote. My friends, you want to hear the words of a political hack? Here's this guy who said that these cameras that take pictures of license plates, they're not taking pictures of people. They're only taking pictures of cars. Now, if that strikes you as slightly stupid, I would question the use of the word slightly. That's like saying, people don't kill, guns kill. If you're taking a picture of a license plate, it's assigned to a person, so you're tracking the person. My friends, let's not allow our government to be stupid and dishonest. The surveillance has got to come to an end. It's beyond all reasonable measure. It violates the Constitution. It diminishes our freedom. It's un-American. And I give kudos once again to Whitehead and the Rutherford Institute. Go to their website, rutherford.org. Look at it. Lots of videos, lots of articles to learn from. If you want to support the organization, I think you should. We are out of time for this week. I will be back. I thoroughly plan to be back on Monday with more Real Truth, working towards August 24th, our 9th anniversary show. My friends, I want you to go find your children. I want you to put your arms around them. I want you to tell them that you love them. Do it for two reasons. First of all, they deserve it. Second of all, you deserve it. My friends, I'll see you on Monday. Hasta luego.